So last Monday we talked about the cost of a home inspection and the necessity of getting it, and I think we all agreed on that. So you've got the home inspection and you're going to get your report back. And that report is usually going to have pictures, it's going to have a lot of verbiage, but different inspectors give different formats of reports. But you just want to make sure the inspection report is thorough and that usually there's pictures that's really going to help you make sense of all the verbiage that's going to be in that. So what's going to be included on this inspection report? That's where it gets interesting. There's always going to be something. If it's a brand new house, there's going to be things because the inspector is trained to look for things different than that builder or that contractor. So just be prepared. Now, keep in mind, sometimes things are significant. If it's a safety issue, really for this purpose of this conversation, it kind of doesn't apply. If it's a safety issue, it needs to be fixed and it's going to be fixed. And you know, if there's carbon monoxide pouring into the home, you know, you can negotiate that, but the reality is you're going to insist that it's going to be fixed, and a reasonable seller is going to know that it needs to be fixed. So as far as this discussion today, put safety on another level because it's going to be handled and it's almost always going to be paid for by the seller, in my opinion. So about the home inspection report. This is actually my house here, outside of my house. Now, if you look over here, you'll see some cracks in the siding. So when we bought this house 10 years ago, that was on the inspection report. When I sell it a few years from now, it's going to be on the inspection report because I'm not going to replace the siding to worry about that little crack there that really doesn't affect anything. If we go around to the other side of the house, you'll see some mold that gathered last year, or not mold, but green stuff. What's it called? Moss, I think, all that sort of thing. Inspector's going to mention all that stuff. So remember, when you get your report back and there's 50 things listed, not everything is utmost importance. Not everything does anyone really stress about, but it's the inspector's job to list everything. So how are you going to negotiate that inspection? That's really where it gets interesting. Maryland allows for a property inspection notice. That's the form that your licensed real estate agent is going to use. And basically the buyer that paid for that inspection is going to present that to the seller. They're going to say, Mr. Seller, these are all the things that need addressed. We would like them addressed. The buyer might ask for everything to be addressed. Usually they're going to ask for the major things to be addressed or what the buyer perceives as major things or expensive things in the future to fix. The seller can do a lot of different things. They can fix everything, no questions asked. Not common, but sellers, everyone wants it to close, so everyone has a reasonable conversation. A seller might say, hey, Mr. Buyer, we're going to fix some of this stuff, but not all of it. Or the seller might say, hey, Mr. Buyer, we don't want to deal with this. We're going to give you a credit of whatever, so many thousands of dollars to handle those repairs. Also, I should mention the buyer, instead of asking for things to be fixed, could ask for a credit as well. So it just depends on what's going on. Different ways to look at it. If a buyer has a seller fix issues, that allows for the buyer to move into that house being calm and not knowing the stuff needs addressed right away, but it also doesn't allow the buyer to manage those inspections or those repairs. The seller is going to use a licensed contractor for those repairs per the real estate contract, but maybe that contractor isn't one that we trust or one that we know doesn't do as good a work as the guy that we would choose. So keep that in mind. It might be best to have things fixed up front, might be best to have things fixed later with a cash credit from the seller. So there's just a lot of different ways to do that. Just a couple other things. After the home inspection has been negotiated and the meeting of the minds has happened, also additional things can come up. Your insurance agent might look at the house and see a dip in the roof, and they might want that fixed for whatever reason, because maybe the insurance agent was a fireman and he's convinced that if someone steps in that roof, he's going to fall through. That happened just recently in a transaction. Another thing, appraiser might come in the house and look under the stairs and see a pile of wood dust and think there might be termites and put the brakes on everything. Again, that just recently happened. The issue was fine. So you're going to get inspected, you're going to come to terms, but then you're going to go through the appraisal process. You're going to have maybe a lender or a home insurance agent look at your property. Just a lot of people are looking at this property to make sure that it's sustainable and that it makes sense to purchase it. So anyway, a little bit longer than I like, but there's a lot to talk about there, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. A million more things to say about home inspections. Thank you, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.